I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're examining a book that is wonderful yet hellish. It is called Hellish Inc. It's written by David Adamson. We're delighted to have David join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask those viewing to please like, comment, and subscribe for more exclusive content. David, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you very much, Logan.
Your book is incredible. We were talking a little bit before we started rolling that this book was born out of inspiration from your son. Tell the folks at home a little bit about that.
So when I was a teenager, a young man growing up, experiencing life, I met a lady. We moved in together. We shared a home for a few years, during which time she became pregnant, carried to term. But during the time, there was issues with drug abuse, and we were having problems. So the drugs, I don't know if they were just a crutch or whatever, but the drugs themselves, the heavy drugs, damaged the unborn child, and he was born terminal. So right after birth, he was moved to ICU, and during which the time he spent in ICU, I spent the time with him as well. I went into ICU. He lived for 15 hours. I was allowed to hold him, take him out of the incubator and hold him until he passed away. During this time, he passed this whole story to me. It was very strange for me because it came to me almost like little feathers or wings or pieces of paper or something flying into my eyes. And after he passed, I was having trouble adding it up. And the following weeks, months, and few years, I couldn't handle losing my son, couldn't handle the story. Many things have occurred since then. A whole lifetime has gone by, more than 40 years. He would be in his mid-40s now had he lived. And 6 years ago, he came back to me after yet again a very traumatic experience when I went through a divorce. Came back to me and told me to write this story now that he told me, because I had the life experience to accomplish this. So I felt at the time maybe it was his counseling. I really needed that help. I really needed to be able to get things out of my mind. I really needed to try to understand what the story was.
Yeah.
So I started writing. I had no idea it would turn into a book. It turned into a massive amount of material. I've amassed a large amount of material in the last 6 years. But also in the last 6 years, my work life, my personal life. There's been many things happen in the last year. In the last year itself, my brother of 64 years passed away in October, and that was a real struggle. It changed me quite a bit. In the last 20 years, I've been a long distance runner. I've really pushed hard to encourage and inspire other people to run and to exercise, stay in good shape. I have accomplished many feats, being able to drop 20, 30 miles any day of the week.
Wow.
I ran in marathons all over BC, Alberta, and as a truck driver, as my profession as a truck driver, I have run literally in every town, village, city in Western Canada and many cities in the US, because at one point I traveled US, but mid-US, mid-central, I have never operated on the East Coast or done the I-5 other than to go to Portland, Oregon. Yeah, so my life has changed. My brother was a lifelong smoker. Come January, after he had been gone, I was really struggling with nerves, and I just started smoking. I used to smoke when I was very young, and I started smoking. So for a year now, I've been smoking. I do feel as though it's just a transitory thing that I will probably quit this year. I really needed my brother there kind of in a lot of times, and maybe the smoking just was part of him. It brought him closer to me, even though he's far away now, right?
Yeah, with even my dad, he used to smoke Lark cigarettes, and when I smell cigarette smoke, it still reminds me of him. So maybe
Yeah.
that's the connection there. For the folks at home, tell them what your book is about.
So the book Hellish came to me as like almost like a dream or a vision, and I began writing the book as a few sort of poems. They became the prologue and the epilogue in the book, and I borrowed from the poems to create some of the paragraphs, phrases that exist in the book. Um, the I was writing the book. My children were in and out of my life quite a bit. They were very young. Uh, they were young teenagers at least. Um, they watched me write at several times. They would see my books and material and everything spread all over. Like I had a very large kitchen table. Would have everything spread all over the table, and I would be constantly uh, scouring through dictionaries and atlases, trying to pinpoint in my mind how to describe the places and the times that the angels and gods were existing on the earth and in the realms that they exist in. Because the book deals with the spiritual, with gods and goddesses of the past, um, it it seems foreign to me as being like a human like anyone else, like a breathing human person with blood, and being able to somehow envision gods and goddesses. It was always taught to me that we can't even imagine what a god is or imagine what a goddess is, because they are entities that are so far up beyond our capability to envision even, right? But somehow, maybe past experiences, maybe college, maybe some training that I took, looking into metaphysics and philosophy, maybe I was able to draw on words and phrases and descriptions, and I was able to capture, like briefly, if it was only briefly, I was able to capture that sort of mental movie that goes on in our mind when we write, when we're reading and when we write. We create images in our mind that are just totally otherworldly. Like they transcend time, it transcends space, it takes us to places where we can't exist in this on this earthly realm that we are in now.
Right.
But it's beautiful, and it's even if the book is called Hellish, I would like people to understand that I wasn't writing about hell. I wasn't writing about demons and devils. I was writing about gods. I was writing about these entities that have existed since they're written in legend and myth, and they exist in the minds of cultures around the earth, and they're what brings us together. They're what brings us together as spiritual people, and we're all looking for like religion. We're all looking for belief. We're all looking for a solid ground that we can stand on and feel comfortable. So the book Hellish got its name far into the writing of the book. Near the end of the book, the one of the main characters describes his appearance as being hellish. And this was what I focused on towards the end of the writing, and then finally named the book Hellish, because when we're struggling to try to project ourselves onto our friends and our family and coworkers and the larger audience, let's say, we struggle with our inner perception of who we are and what we look like. As a writer, as someone who's really looked inward at myself and inward at psychology and metaphysics and myth, I have a worry that maybe people are going to see me as ugly, right? Like I'm not going to be well taken. So it's kind of a thing where where when you want to walk onto a stage and you want to be a performer, you really have to step outside yourself. You really have to be someone else and perform. But personally, after the performance, we all think that we're somehow not good enough. Maybe it's ugly somehow, maybe not presentable. So the main character has some of that in me, where he felt that he was hellish, and that this wouldn't be acceptable or accepted, and this wouldn't be the reality or even a fantasy, that there was somehow this was broken. So I decided, that fits. I'm going to call the book Hellish, and it settled. I went, wow, it's a one word name, and these are important things when we're considering names for titles, because it's captivating, and it's on everyone's mind. I believe you can probably go to any culture in the world and say hellish, and somehow they can capture that, and so they have some kind of mental image, and it may make them, well, why are you saying hellish? Well, read a few pages, try to see the beauty in it, because there's actually a lot of beauty in the book. There's a lot of places and things that you can see where you can't go normally. Right. I'm just blown away. Like I write 2,000-3,000 words at a shot. I write until my hands cramp up and I can't. They go numb and I have to drop the pen, and then I can hardly remember what I wrote. It's bizarre, and I can't go back and change it, because the book is a series of flashbacks. The characters go forwards and backwards in time. They don't they're unaffected by time, and so I can't go back and change things. All I can do is go back, correct spelling errors, punctuation, syntax, things like this.
Right. Well, it's an amazing book. You can tell it's born out of inspiration, because it has that kind of read. It has that kind of dreamlike quality. It is called Hellish. It is written by David Adamson. I think it would be a terrific movie as well. I don't know if it'd be animated or live action. Have you thought about this as a movie at all?
Yes, I have. Today's graphics are just absolutely amazing, Logan. And I want to thank you very much for your kind words. Like, it's amazing to have a person who has been in the field and knows how to talk to people and be a part of the acting world and try to inspire others and build a business. It's humbling for you to speak to me and tell me that you're impressed with the book and you're impressed with where it came from. Absolutely. Yes, I have envisioned it as a movie. The graphics today are very good. I believe that it would be very possible for creative people, creative minds, especially, to be able to create the designs and the characters and the background and everything that's presented in the book. Like I say, it's bizarre how I wrote it. It's written in the first person. Mm-hmm. I always say, like, it's amazing that writing in the first person is considered to be the hardest way to write, because you're usually the first person is focused in his own little world, and it's hard to build that bigger picture. Right. But the way that it's written so that there's no bubble. It's not like a bubble on an X, Y, and Z axis. It's written more like it's written on a battlefield, where all the readers are participants in a battle, and they need information and they need constant contact. And so I created in my mind this vision of like a bombing run going over the battlefield, 3 planes bombing the battlefield, which would be the reader. Now I'm using the word reader as plural, and it's possible to do that, but you have to paradigm shift it. So when the bombing run goes over the battlefield, it's past, present, and future. So it's possible to bomb this information on the reader. The reader is being affected by the forces of the story, but the information packs are connected to the bombing run like an umbilical cord. So there's a constant connection with the past, present, and future. And it allows for the mind of the reader to just create this whole world it's bizarre. I don't know how. I don't know how I did.
Well,
I
like I said, I
thank
think
the
it's
spirit that moved me. I just don't know
I
how.
think it's inspiration for sure. You credit your son. I'm sure that's it, at least in part.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful book. It immerses you in the action. It immerses you in this world. The name of the book is called Hellish. It is written by David Adamson. David, thank you so much for joining us here today on
Thank you
Spotlight.
so much, Logan, for your time. I'm
My pleasure. And to the folks at home,
thoroughly
I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.